Mårüné. I was born from red and blue, literally. That's what Mama always tells me. My father, Marek, came from a long line of passionate souls, the kinds that burn bright red with determination and fire. Mama, my sweet Mårüné, carries the royal blue blood of her ancestors, calm and deep like still waters. When they met, it wasn't just two people falling in love. It was two colors dancing until they created something new. Me, Mårüné. I wasn't there when they first met, obviously, but I've heard the story so many times I feel like I was. It was 1992, at a protest rally on their college campus. Mama was organizing a peaceful sit-in at the administration building, all calculated plans and measured words. Then came Daddy, bursting through the door with his megaphone and fire-red dashiki, turning her quiet demonstration into a full-blown movement. "Girl, your daddy nearly ruined everything that day," Mama would say, shaking her head while braiding my hair. Had the whole campus police department showing up, news cameras rolling in, but you know what? Sometimes the most beautiful things come from chaos meeting order. I guess that's why they named me Mårüné. Not just maroon, like the color they made together, but Mårüné, with accents that Daddy says add ancestral flavor. Leave it to my parents to turn even my name into a statement. My earliest memories are of their debates across our dinner table, Mama with her statistics and carefully researched points, Daddy with his passionate speeches and historical references. They'd argue about everything from politics to the proper way to season chicken, but underneath it all was this current of deep love and respect that I didn't fully understand until I got older. "Baby," Daddy would tell me, "your mama and I are like hot sauce and potato salad. Separate, they're good. Together, they make magic." Growing up in their home was like living in a constant swirl of red and blue, protest posters and meditation corners, soul food Sundays and vegan Wednesdays, Malcolm X quotes next to Buddha statues. Some might call it chaos, but to me, it was just home. But this isn't just their story. It's mine too. And like any good story about a Black girl trying to find her way in this world, it's complicated, messy, beautiful, and real. Sometimes it's gonna make you laugh, sometimes it might make you cry, and sometimes it'll make you wanna fight somebody. But that's just life, isn't it? This is my story, and like the color I'm named after, it's a blend of everything that made me who I am. Let me tell you about it. Growing pains. The first time I realized I was different was in Miss Thompson's third grade class. Picture this, 28 kids sitting cross-legged on a rainbow carpet, and me with my hair doing what Daddy calls reaching for the ancestors. Mama had tried something new that morning, some fancy twist-out technique she saw on YouTube, and my hair was having none of it. "Mårüné," Ms. Thompson said, stumbling over the accents like most people do. "Would you like to share your family tree project?" I walked to the front of the class, my poster board covered in photos and African fabric that Daddy insisted we use as a border. While other kids had simple branches with names like Smith and Johnson, mine looked like a whole forest. There was Daddy's side, pictures of Mali warriors and griots that he swears we're descended from, though Mama says he needs to take a DNA test before making such bold claims. Then there was Mama's side, with her grandfather who was one of the first Black professors at Howard, and her great-grandmother who ran a secret school during Jim Crow. "My family is like a box of crayons," I told the class, using one of Mama's analytical metaphors. "We've got all these different colors that came together to make me." That's when Tommy Jenkins, who always smelled like cheese sticks, raised his hand and asked, "Why's your name got all those weird marks on it? Is it even English?" Before I could answer, Kendra Washington, who would later become my best friend, snapped back, "Why's your face got all those weird freckles on it? Is it even washing?" That was the day I learned 3 important things. 1. Kids can be mean about what they don't understand. 2. Sometimes your defenders come from unexpected places. And 3. My name wasn't just a name. It was a conversation starter, whether I wanted it to be or not. Growing up, every day was a new adventure and identity. At home, I was swimming in culture, Daddy teaching me African proverbs while we made breakfast, Mama showing me how to code on her laptop during lunch breaks. But outside, that's where things got interesting. Take my 10th birthday party. Mama wanted to hire a science educator to do experiments with my friends. Daddy insisted on bringing in an African drummer for a traditional ceremony. They compromised by having both, which turned into beautiful chaos when the vinegar from the volcano experiment spilled onto the drummer's djembe. Instead of getting mad, he incorporated the sizzling sound into his rhythm, and soon all my friends were dancing to what he called the volcano beat. That was my childhood. A constant mix of tradition and innovation, spirituality and science, passion and planning. Some days it felt like too much, like I was being pulled in too many directions. Other days, it felt just right, like all these different pieces were slowly forming a picture that only I could see. Baby girl, my Aunt Teresa once told me, "You're lucky. Some people spend their whole lives trying to figure out who they are. You're getting a masterclass in identity from day one." She wasn't wrong. But sometimes being the product of two strong forces means you have to be even stronger to become your own person. And let me tell you that journey, it's been anything but simple. Squad goals and soul ties. They say you can't choose your family, but friends? That's a different story, though sometimes I wonder if we really choose them, or if the universe just throws people at us until some stick. Take my core 4. Kendra, Zara, Marcus, and Joy. Each one came into my life like a cosmic joke. But together we're what Daddy calls a force of nature, and what Mama calls a statistical improbability of compatibility. Kendra, my day one since the Tommy Jenkins incident, is what happens when you mix loyalty with zero filter. This girl will fight for you and then tell you your outfit is trash in the same breath. "I love you too much to let you lie to yourself," she always says. Her family owns the best soul food restaurant in the city, which means she's always bringing us leftovers and commentary about her mama's latest kitchen drama. Then there's Zara, who transferred in during 7th grade. Picture this: iPhone in one hand, Quran in the other, trying to balance being a modern Muslim girl while her parents are still living in 1975 Pakistan. The day we became friends, she was crying in the bathroom because her mother told her she couldn't go to cheerleading tryouts. I shared my lunch with her and told her about how Daddy once forbade me from taking coding classes because he thought technology was destroying our connection to the ancestors. We bonded over having parents who love us, but sometimes love their traditions more. Marcus rolled up sophomore year, all swagger and smart mouth, until everyone realized he was actually a closeted anime nerd who could quote both Tupac and Naruto with equal passion. He's the only boy in our crew, and while everyone assumes he's trying to get with one of us, he's actually just trying to escape his 5 sisters at home. "Y'all are like the sisters I actually wanted," he says, which is both sweet and slightly offensive. Joy came last, and despite her name, she's the most cynical person I know. She's that friend who'll text you, "Everything is meaningless," at 3 a.m. and then show up at your door with fresh baked cookies at 3:05. Her parents are these super successful doctors who are never home, so she practically lives at all our houses on rotation. Together, we're a mess of contradictions. We fight like cats and dogs one minute and ride hard for each other the next. Like that time Zara's ex tried to spread rumors about her at school. Before she even knew what was happening, Kendra had already threatened him with physical violence. Marcus had hacked his Instagram, still don't know how. Joy had written a scathing expose for the school paper, which never got published but still scared him straight. and I had organized a whole support rally disguised as a cultural awareness event. But it's not all drama and defense. Some of our best moments are just us being stupid together. Like our weekly culture clash dinners, where we all bring food from our backgrounds and make fusion dishes that probably shouldn't exist. Zara's biryani tacos are legendary, even if they make her grandmother cry every time she makes them. The thing about friendship at our age is that it's intense. Everything feels like life or death. Every joke is the funniest thing ever. Every betrayal cuts like a knife. We're all trying to figure out who we are, and sometimes we hurt each other in the process. There have been backstabbings, boy drama, family feuds that spilled over into our friend group. We've had fallouts that lasted months and makeups that happened in minutes. But through it all, we've created our own little family. A weird, dysfunctional, beautiful family that somehow works despite, or maybe because of, our differences. Like Mama always says, the strongest fabric is woven from different threads. And let me tell you, our threads, they're colorful as hell. Real talk. Let's get into the heavy stuff. You know those TV shows where everything wraps up neat and clean by the end of the episode? Yeah, that's not my life. Take last summer, when everything hit the fan at once. I'm talking capital D drama. It started with me finding out that Daddy, my stay true to your roots father, had a whole secret Instagram account where he was selling meditation apps and crystal healing courses. Mr. Technology is destroying our souls himself. Out here, being a digital guru. The hypocrisy had me ready to put him on blast until Mama sat me down and explained that sometimes people need to evolve to survive, even if it looks like they're contradicting themselves. Your father's pride kept him from admitting he needed to adapt. She told me while we were stress baking at 2 a.m. Sometimes the hardest thing for a revolutionary to do is change their own mind. Then there was the whole situation with Aunt Teresa. Yeah, the same one who gave me all that wisdom about identity. Turns out she'd been struggling with addiction for years, hiding it behind designer bags and Instagram filters. When she finally broke down at my cousin's graduation party, it shook the whole family. Suddenly, all those inspirational speeches she gave me hit different. They weren't just about identity. They were about survival. The family split into two camps. Those who wanted to send her to rehab immediately, Mama's side, all logic and planning, and those who thought we could handle it internally with prayer and traditional healing, Daddy's people, of course. Meanwhile, Aunt Teresa was in the middle, drowning in everyone else's opinions about her salvation. That's when I realized something important about family. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you need love and understanding and professional help and boundaries and grace. It's messy and complicated, and there's no handbook for it. But it's not all heavy. Even in the midst of chaos, we find ways to laugh. Like when we finally got Aunt Teresa to agree to rehab, and Daddy tried to sage the facility before letting her check in. The security guard thought he was trying to smoke something illegal, and we spent 2 hours explaining the difference between white sage and weed to a very confused staff. Or the time Mama's professional facade cracked during a parent-teacher conference when my history teacher suggested that Africa was a country. The look on her face, priceless. She switched from her corporate voice to her oh hell no voice so fast, I thought the teacher was going to pass out. These moments, the hard ones and the funny ones, they're all teaching me something about resilience, about growth, about how healing doesn't always look the way you expect it to. Sometimes it looks like arguing across a dinner table. Sometimes it looks like crying in a bathroom at a graduation party. And sometimes it looks like laughing until you cry while your father argues with a security guard about the spiritual properties of plants. The thing about real life is that you can't edit out the messy parts. You can't filter the pain or Photoshop away the struggles. But maybe we're not supposed to. Maybe all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly cry moments, and the laugh until you snort moments, maybe that's what makes the story worth telling. As Daddy would say, life ain't about staying clean, it's about learning to dance in the rain. And baby, in my family, we've learned to do the electric slide in a hurricane. Blood, love, and other complications. Family. It's more than blood. It's history, expectation, love, and drama, all rolled into one complicated package. In my case, it's also a clash of worldviews that somehow works. Take our family reunions. Mama's side shows up with color-coded schedules, matching t-shirts, and spreadsheets for the potluck assignments. Daddy's people roll in whenever the spirits move them, bringing drums, incense, and dishes they decided to make on the spot because the ancestors whispered the recipe. The first time both sides came together, I thought we were going to need a UN peacekeeping force. Daddy's cousin Malik started a drum circle in the middle of Mama's carefully planned line dancing session. Mama's sister Jennifer tried to create a sign-up sheet for the drum circle. Chaos ensued. But then something magical happened. My 7-year-old cousin Maya started dancing to the drums, using moves she learned from the line dancing. Soon everyone was joining in, creating this beautiful fusion of structure and spontaneity. Now it's a tradition. We call it the family flow. That's the thing about my family. We clash, we argue, we drive each other crazy, but we also create something unique in the process. Like how Grandma Ruby, Daddy's mom, and Grandma Catherine, Mama's mom, used to be like oil and water. Now they have a weekly Wisdom Wednesday podcast where they debate everything from relationships to politics, all while crocheting together over Zoom. Their listeners don't know that half their philosophical differences are really just them arguing about who's going to host Thanksgiving. Then there's my little cousin Jerome, who's caught between worlds just like me. His mama is Daddy's sister Aisha, who's all about that natural lifestyle, no sugar, no TV, no negative energy. His daddy is this corporate lawyer who believes in structure and violin lessons. This kid shows up to his classical music recitals in Ankara print suits, plays Beethoven on a violin decorated with African symbols, and sneaks Sour Patch Kids in his dashiki pockets. The adults in my family, there's something else. Take Uncle Marcus, Mama's brother, and Aunt Letitia, Daddy's sister. They couldn't stand each other at first. Uncle Marcus thought Aunt Letitia's sage burning and crystal wearing was nonsense. Aunt Letitia said Uncle Marcus's MBA was just colonizer certification. Now they're married with twins, running a successful business, selling spiritually aligned financial planning services. I don't really know what that means, but they're happy and their clients love them. Family dinner conversations at our house are like intellectual wrestling matches. Mama comes with her statistics and research papers. Daddy with his proverbs and historical references. They'll debate everything: politics, parenting, whether putting pineapple in jollof rice is cultural appropriation or innovation. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to eat my food and figure out my calculus homework. But here's the real truth about family. It's not the big moments that matter most. It's not the reunions or the holidays or the big debates. It's the small stuff. Like how Daddy still braids my hair sometimes, telling me ancient stories while his fingers work, even though I'm way too old for it. Or how Mama leaves sticky notes with quantum physics facts in my lunch bag because she knows I'm struggling in science class. It's the way my cousins have a group chat just for sharing memes about our grandparents' technology struggles. We're not perfect. We fight, we hurt each other, we say things we regret. But at the end of the day, we come back together. Because that's what family is. It's the people who see all your colors, even the ones you try to hide, and love you anyway. As both my grandmothers say, in very different ways, Grandma Ruby. Family is like gumbo. Everything ain't gonna taste good by itself, but together it makes something special. Grandma Catherine. Family is a complex system of interconnected variables that somehow produces a net positive outcome despite apparent chaos. Same message, different flavors. Story of my life. Love languages and other dialects. Let's talk about love. Not the Disney kind with singing animals and glass slippers, but the real kind, the messy kind. The kind that has you checking your horoscope at 3 a.m., even though Mama says astrology is pseudoscience disguised as celestial mathematics. My first real crush was on Jamal Thompson in 11th grade. Tall, smart, with locks that defied gravity and a smile that could end wars. He was the perfect blend of conscious and cool, wore African print sneakers, but could also quote bell hooks. Daddy approved because Jamal attended all his African history workshops. Mama liked him because he was in AP Calculus. Too bad he was about as emotionally available as a brick wall. See, Jamal was going through what Kendra called his conscious brother awakening phase. Every conversation somehow turned into a lecture about the diaspora or the revolution. Try talking about movies? He'd go off about Hollywood's colonizer mentality. Suggest getting ice cream? He'd start a discourse about the dairy industry's exploitation of workers. Girl, Joy told me while I was crying into my pillow after he curved me for the third time. He's not deep, he's just depressed and reading too many Instagram quotes. But it wasn't just Jamal. There was Marcus, not our friend Marcus, different Marcus, who was finding himself through poetry slams and vegetarianism. He wrote me a 14-page poem comparing my beauty to various African goddesses, but couldn't remember my birthday. Then came Anthony, who was so busy trying to be not like other guys that he forgot to be himself. Dating while being me, a girl named Mårüné, raised on both quantum physics and ancestor reverence. It's complicated. Some guys get intimidated when they find out I can code in 3 languages and know traditional healing practices. Others try too hard to match my energy, whatever that means. There was this one time I went on a date with a guy who, after hearing about my parents, showed up wearing a dashiki over a NASA t-shirt. He spent the whole evening switching between talking about astrophysics and attempting to speak Wolof, which isn't even my family's language. I couldn't decide whether to be offended or impressed by the effort. But the worst was when I dated Jason, the colorblind guy who said my name was exotic and kept telling me he didn't see color. First of all, my name isn't exotic, it's intentional. Second, not seeing color means you're not seeing me. That relationship lasted about as long as one of Daddy's attempts at a social media cleanse. 3 days, if you're wondering. Through all this, my parents' love story kept playing in my head. They're so different, but they make it work. One day, I asked Mama how she and Daddy managed to blend their worlds without losing themselves. She looked up from her laptop, where she was simultaneously coding and burning sage, a compromise she made with Daddy, and said, "Baby, love isn't about finding someone who matches your rhythm. It's about finding someone who can dance to your beat while playing their own song." Daddy, who was nearby arranging his crystals by moonlight energy or something, added, "And sometimes you gotta let the rhythm be offbeat for a while until you find your groove." I'm still figuring out my own love language. Sometimes it comes out in Python code, sometimes in African proverbs. Sometimes it's a mix of both, like when I created a dating app algorithm based on ancestral compatibility. It was for a school project, don't judge me. But I'm learning that love, real love, isn't about perfect harmony. It's about finding someone who hears your weird mix of beats and wants to add their own to the composition. Someone who sees all your colors, red, blue, and every shade in between, and wants to paint with you. Until then, I'm just here, swiping left on struggle love and right on possibility, trying not to let my heart get too caught up in the rhythm of what could be. Colors outside the lines. Identity is a funny thing. Everyone's always trying to put you in a box, but what happens when you're made of colors that run outside the lines? Take last week at the Black Student Union meeting. We were planning the annual cultural showcase, and someone suggested I perform a traditional African dance. Why? Because of my name and the way I dress. Apparently wearing Ankara print blazers with Jordans makes me a cultural ambassador. When I said I'd rather do my spoken word piece that combines African proverbs with quantum physics theories, you should have seen the looks I got. That's not really authentic, someone said. Authentic to what? The stereotype they had in my head? The box they were trying to put me in? That's when I channeled my inner mama and dropped some knowledge. If we're talking about authenticity, I said, let's talk about how authenticity isn't static. It's quantum, existing in multiple states simultaneously until observed. My authenticity includes both the ancient wisdom of my ancestors and the future they dreamed of, but couldn't reach. Daddy would have been proud of that one. Well, once Mama explained the quantum part to him, but it's not just at school. Sometimes I feel like I'm constantly translating myself. At hackathons, I'm the girl with the unique name who surprises everyone when she codes in perfect Python. At family functions, I'm the tech-savvy one who still knows how to pour libation. In my friend group, I'm the bridge between different worlds, the one who can explain both why Mercury retrograde has Zara stressed and why that new quantum computing breakthrough has Mama excited. The thing is, I'm tired of explaining, tired of being either too much or not enough of whatever people expect me to be. Some days, I just want to exist without being a statement, like when I went to that tech conference with Mama. The moment I walked in rocking my locks and my Algorithms and Ancestors t-shirt, yes, I designed it myself, I could feel the assumptions rolling in. One guy actually asked me if I was lost. Before I could answer, I had to decide. Do I go full Mama and hit him with statistics about Black women in STEM? Do I go full daddy and give him a history lesson about African contributions to mathematics? Or do I just be me? I chose me. I smiled, pulled up my laptop, and proceeded to debug his team's AI model while explaining how the pattern recognition principles in traditional African art could improve their neural network architecture. The look on his face? Priceless. But it's not always about clapping back or proving people wrong. Sometimes it's about those quiet moments when all my different pieces fall into perfect harmony. Like when I'm sitting in my room, incense burning, Daddy's influence, while I work on my coding projects, Mama's influence, creating something that's entirely my own. Or like last month, when I organized a tech and tradition workshop for kids in our community. We built computers while learning about African mathematical systems, coded games based on traditional storytelling, and created digital art inspired by ancestral patterns. Watching these kids embrace both worlds without question. That's when I realized that maybe my generation is building bridges we never had to cross. Identity isn't just about who you are, it's about who you're becoming. And who I'm becoming is someone who refuses to choose between her colors. I'm learning that being authentic means being all of me, all the time, even when people don't understand the pattern. As Daddy always says, the most powerful ancestors were the ones who dared to be different. To which Mama usually adds, statistical outliers often become the new normal. So here I am, a statistical outlier in ancestors' clothing, coding my way through tradition and innovating through heritage. My colors might bleed outside the lines, but that just means I'm creating new patterns. And yeah, sometimes it's lonely being a bridge between worlds, but bridges don't just connect places, they create new destinations. So maybe that's my role. Not just walking between worlds, but building new ones where kids like me won't have to explain why they can code in Python while wearing waist beads. After all, I'm Mårüné. My name itself is a remix, so why shouldn't my life be one too? Tomorrow's colors. College applications are sitting on my desk like time bombs, each one asking me to define myself in 500 words or less. How do you compress a rainbow into black and white text? Mama wants me to focus on my academic achievements. Lead with the robotics competition, she says. Mention your coding projects. Universities love innovation. She's already created a spreadsheet ranking schools by their STEM programs and diversity statistics. Daddy, on the other hand, thinks I should write about my spiritual journey. Tell them about the time you organized that Juneteenth hackathon, he suggests. Show them how you're bridging the digital divide while staying connected to your roots. He's been burning sage around my laptop for clarity of purpose. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here thinking about how to tell my truth without it sounding like I'm trying too hard to be unique. Because let's be real, a Black girl named Mårüné who codes, does traditional healing, and runs a podcast called Binary and Bloodlines, where I interview elders about traditional knowledge and digitize their stories. It sounds made up, even to me sometimes. But then I think about the future I'm trying to build, the one where kids like my cousin Jerome don't have to choose between violin lessons and drum circles, where girls like Zara can code while wearing hijab without being called contradictions, where my future children won't have to explain why their name has special characters or why they sage their server room. I'm applying to traditional universities, yes, but also to some unconventional programs. There's this one in Ghana that combines technology with traditional African knowledge systems. Another in California that's focused on indigenous futurism and digital storytelling. Mama calls them calculated risks. Daddy calls them following the ancestors' blueprint. The truth is, I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I know who I want to be. I want to be like the color I'm named after. A perfect blend of different elements, creating something entirely new. I want to build technologies that honor tradition while pushing boundaries. Create spaces where diversity isn't just welcomed, it's expected. Maybe I'll develop AI systems that incorporate African philosophical principles, or create virtual reality experiences that let people explore their cultural heritage. Maybe I'll start a tech company that uses blockchain to preserve oral traditions. Okay, that one's already in development. It's my senior project. But whatever I do, I want to do it my way, with one foot in the future and one in the past, dancing to the beat of both drums and digital rhythms. The other day, I found an old journal entry from when I was 12. I'd written, "Sometimes I feel like a glitch in the matrix, too digital for the spiritual kids, too spiritual for the tech kids." Reading it now, I realized that what I saw as a glitch was actually an upgrade. I'm not a bug in the system. I'm a new programming language altogether. So maybe that's what I'll write in my college essays. Not about being caught between worlds, but about creating a new one. About being the bridge that future generations can walk across. About taking the best of both my colors, the passion of red and the depth of blue, and painting a future that's as complex and beautiful as the heritage that created me. Because tomorrow's colors don't have to look like yesterday's. They just have to be true. And me? I'm as true as they come, even if spell check doesn't recognize my name. Higher learning, higher stakes. Welcome to Howard University, where tradition meets transformation, and where I learned that being a bridge between worlds means sometimes feeling like you're suspended in midair. First day of freshman year, I walked into my advanced computing concepts class wearing my grandmother's ancestral beads over a Bitcoin t-shirt. Professor Thompson took one look at me and said, "Now, this is going to be interesting." He didn't know the half of it. My dorm room became ground zero for what my roommate Amara called the most chaotic study sessions in academic history. Picture this: sage smoke wafting over laptops, traditional African drums playing lo-fi beats, and a group of us debugging code while discussing ancestral wisdom. We'd have Mama on video chat helping us with algorithms while Daddy's voice boomed from the speakerphone about how the binary system originated in ancient Africa. But college wasn't just about academics. It was about finding my tribe, people who didn't see my contradictions as contradictions at all. Like my study group, Amara, a Nigerian girl who combined traditional Yoruba patterns with NFT art, James, a white guy from Montana who learned Swahili because of his love for African tech startups, and Tasha, who wore a dashiki while writing her thesis on quantum computing. Then there was the drama with the Black Student Union and the Computer Science Club. Both wanted me to be president, both scheduled meetings at the same time, and both thought the other was less important. I ended up creating a new organization altogether, Digital Diaspora, where we coded apps based on African principles and used technology to preserve cultural heritage. The professors didn't know what to make of me at first. In my African studies classes, I'd bring up how blockchain could preserve oral histories. In my tech classes, I'd reference traditional African mathematical systems. Dr. Roberts, my favorite professor, finally told me, "Ms. Mårüné, you're either going to revolutionize both fields or give everyone a headache trying." But the real challenge? Dating in college. Try explaining to a guy that you need to check both his Zodiac compatibility and his GitHub commits. Or that before we get serious, he needs to understand why I sage my server room and why I believe ancestor veneration and artificial intelligence can coexist. There was this one guy, Devin, who seemed perfect. Computer science major, conscious, could quote both Frantz Fanon and Mark Zuckerberg, but then he started trying to fix my contradictions. "Why can't you just code without all the spiritual stuff?" he'd ask. Or, "Why do you need to bring technology into everything traditional?" Bye, Devin. The turning point came during my junior year when I presented my thesis project. An AI system that used traditional African divination principles to predict software bugs. Half the computer science department thought it was brilliant. The other half thought it was blasphemy. The African Studies department couldn't decide whether to celebrate or critique it. But you know what? That project won the university's Innovation Award and got featured in Afrofuturist Monthly. Even got a write-up in Tech Forward magazine under the headline, "The Future is Ancient: How One Student is Revolutionizing Tech Through Tradition." Daddy framed the article. Mama created a statistical analysis of the project's impact metrics. College taught me that sometimes you have to create your own major when existing ones don't fit. Sometimes you have to build your own bridge when the world wants you to choose one side. And sometimes you have to trust that the very things that make you seem too much are exactly what the world needs. 4 years, 12 hackathons, 3 spiritual awakenings, and countless all-nighters later, I graduated with a double major in computer science and African studies, plus a minor in digital anthropology, which I helped create, by the way. At graduation, I wore my grandmother's beads under my cap and gown, had binary code painted on my nails in traditional symbols, and gave a valedictorian speech that quoted both ancient proverbs and Silicon Valley visionaries. Because that's the thing about higher learning. It's not just about what you study, it's about who you become in the process. And I became more me than ever before. As I told the graduating class, in a world of either or, dare to be, and your contradictions are your superpowers. Your complexity is your crown. Daddy cried. Mama took notes. And somewhere between their red and blue, I found my own shade of brilliant. Digital griot. They say the first year after college is about finding yourself. But what if you've already found yourself and the world doesn't have a job description for who you are? I remember sitting in interviews, watching recruiters try to categorize me. Big tech companies loved my coding skills, but got nervous when I talked about incorporating indigenous knowledge systems into their AI ethics frameworks. Cultural institutions were excited about my understanding of tradition, but didn't know what to do with my technical expertise. So I did what any self-respecting daughter of Mårüné and Mårüné would do. I created my own path. Welcome to Digital Griot Solutions, my tech startup that bridges ancestral wisdom and cutting-edge technology. We create AI systems that incorporate African philosophical principles, develop virtual reality experiences of cultural ceremonies, and build blockchain systems to preserve oral histories. Starting a company wasn't easy. Venture capitalists would look at my pitch deck with confusion. So, is this a tech company or a cultural organization? They'd ask. Both, I'd reply. Just like your DNA is both code and story. The breakthrough came when I developed an AI language model trained on African proverbs and traditional knowledge systems. It helped companies make more ethical decisions by applying ancestral wisdom to modern problems. Suddenly, those same VCs who were confused were now throwing term sheets at me. But success brings its own challenges. Like the time a major tech company tried to buy us out, promising to scale our vision. Their CEO couldn't understand why I sage cleansed the meeting room before our discussion, or why I insisted on having both our legal team and a council of elders review the offer. We didn't sell. Instead, we grew on our own terms. Our office is a perfect reflection of our mission: standing desks with traditional African fabrics, meditation rooms equipped with VR headsets, and a server room that doubles as a sacred space. Every morning, we start with both system updates and libations. My team is as diverse as our mission. There's Aisha, our lead AI engineer who writes code while wearing waist beads and can debug in 7 languages. 3 programming, 4 African. Marcus, yes, the same anime-loving Marcus from high school, runs our VR division, creating virtual experiences of traditional ceremonies that are both technologically advanced and culturally respectful. Zara joined us too, heading our UX department where she designs interfaces that are both modern and culturally intuitive. She still practices her faith while pushing technological boundaries, proving that tradition and innovation can coexist beautifully. The work isn't always easy. We face criticism from both sides: traditionalists who think we're diluting culture with technology, and tech purists who think we're compromising efficiency with spirituality. But as Daddy always says, the truth lives in the tension. One of our biggest projects right now is creating a digital library of African indigenous knowledge, preserved through blockchain and accessible through augmented reality. Imagine pointing your phone at a traditional symbol and instantly connecting with its history, stories, and modern applications. We're also developing an AI ethics framework based on Ubuntu philosophy. I am because we are coded into the very DNA of artificial intelligence. It's challenging work, teaching machines about human interconnectedness, but somebody's got to do it. The best part? Watching my parents' reactions to all of this. Mama finally understands why I insist on calculating auspicious dates for product launches, even though she still calls it probabilistic superstition. Daddy has learned to appreciate technology, especially after we created a virtual reality experience of his hometown in Mali. They both serve on our advisory board, Mama handling the technical oversight, Daddy managing cultural authenticity. Their debates during board meetings are legendary. Last week, they spent an hour arguing about whether our new AI should learn from griots or GitHub first. But that's the beauty of this journey. Every day, we're proving that you don't have to choose between honoring your roots and embracing the future. You can be both the keeper of ancient wisdom and a creator of new technology. A digital griot, coding stories that bridge centuries. As our company motto says, innovation is tradition in motion. And me, I'm still that girl named Mårüné, still mixing colors to make something new. Only now, I'm not just bridging worlds, I'm building new ones. One line of code, one ancient wisdom at a time. Full circle family. Success changes things. Not just your bank account or your LinkedIn profile, but the whole family dynamic, especially when your success comes from blending everything your parents taught you, even the parts they thought wouldn't mix. Remember how Daddy used to say technology was destroying our connection to the ancestors? Now he's got a TikTok account with 500,000 followers, teaching traditional African wisdom through viral dances. The ancestors are evolving, he says, while practicing his latest choreography to explain the principles of libation. And Mama, the woman who once made spreadsheets to prove why astrology wasn't scientific, she now uses my company's AI to analyze planetary alignments for optimal algorithm deployment times. It's just another data set, she insists, but I've caught her checking her CoStar app during board meetings. The real transformation, though? Watching them realize that their contradictions actually made me who I am. Like during our first family therapy session. Yes, we finally started going. Turns out even bridge builders need maintenance. When the therapist asked about their parenting styles, "We probably confused her," Mama said, looking guilty. "Nah," I jumped in. "You didn't confuse me. You showed me that truth has many colors." That made them both cry. Even the therapist got misty-eyed. Family gatherings are different now, too. At our last reunion, Daddy's spiritual drum circle used rhythm recognition software, developed by my company, to teach traditional beats. Mama's side organized a hackathon, where elders shared problems from their youth, and the kids developed tech solutions based on traditional practices. Aunt Teresa, 5 years sober now, runs our company's wellness program, combining traditional healing with digital mental health support. Who knew my rock bottom would become someone else's bridge? She says during her weekly digital healing circles. The younger generation of cousins sees me differently too, like little Jerome, now in high school, who comes to me with questions about both coding and spirituality. Last week, he asked me to help him create an app that reminds him when to pray and suggests modern applications of ancient wisdom. "I want to be like you, Cousin Mårüné," he said, using my childhood nickname, both and not either or. But it's not all kumbaya and clean code. Success brings its own family complications. There's the aunties who think I'm getting too big for my britches when I disagree with their traditional approaches. The uncles who feel threatened when I challenge their old school views with data and research. The cousins who expect tech jobs just because we're family. Then there's the pressure of legacy. Daddy's people want me to focus more on preserving tradition. Mama's side keeps pushing me to pursue pure innovation. Meanwhile, I'm trying to explain that preservation through innovation is its own kind of purity. The hardest conversation was when I decided to expand the company globally. Daddy feared we'd lose our cultural authenticity. Mama worried about scaling challenges. They both thought I was moving too fast, so I took them to Africa, not just to Daddy's village in Mali, but to tech hubs in Lagos and Nairobi. Showed them startups using blockchain to track oral histories, developers coding in local languages, innovators building solar-powered communities based on traditional village structures. "This is what I'm trying to do," I told them. "Not erasing our past, but coding our future." That trip changed everything. Now they're my biggest advocates, even when they don't fully understand my methods. Daddy brags about our AI systems to his spiritual community. Mama explains our cultural integration approach to her tech colleagues. They've learned to trust not just my vision, but the journey that gave me that vision. These days, our family dinners are something else. Mama brings her laptop to fact-check our discussions in real time, Daddy sets up a digital altar with live streaming capabilities for distant relatives. We debate everything from quantum computing to ancestral veneration, often in the same sentence. And me? I'm still their baby girl, just operating on a different frequency, still mixing their colors to make my own shade of maroon, just on a larger canvas. As I told them during our last family meeting, yes, we still have those, but now with both PowerPoint presentations and prayer circles. You taught me to be both and in an either-or world. Now I'm teaching the world what you taught me. That's the thing about family. It's not just about the blood you share, but the future you build together. Even if that future includes AI systems that quote your grandmother's proverbs. Squad elevation. They say your 20s are when you find out who your real friends are. But what happens when your real friends are trying to find themselves too? Remember my core four? Let me tell you where life took us and how we managed to grow together instead of apart. Kendra, my day one, who never had a filter. She turned that brutal honesty into a career as a diversity and inclusion consultant for tech companies. Now she gets paid to tell Silicon Valley bros they're being problematic. When she started her own consulting firm, guess who she came to for both business advice and a spiritual cleansing of her office space? That's right, your girl, Mårüné. Look at us, she said during the cleansing ceremony, while I sage smudged her MacBook Pro. You're still mixing tradition with technology, and I'm still telling people about themselves. We just got certificates for it now. Zara's story is something else. Remember how she struggled with balancing her faith and her dreams? Now she's a successful UX designer who specializes in creating interfaces that are culturally sensitive and religiously appropriate. She even developed a prayer app that works with smart hijabs. Yes, that's a thing now. When she finally married, she had both a traditional ceremony and a virtual one for her international team, with digital henna designs in the metaverse. Marcus, the anime-loving one, went from quoting Naruto to creating Afrofuturist anime series. Now he's a celebrated animator who combines traditional African storytelling with Japanese anime style. He runs the VR division at my company, turning ancient stories into immersive digital experiences. Still hasn't gotten a girlfriend, though. Says he's waiting for someone who can appreciate both his extensive action figure collection and his knowledge of African mythology. And Joy, our resident cynic, turned her existential crisis into a mental health tech platform specifically for first-generation immigrants and their children. The girl who used to text us, "Everything is meaningless," at 3 a.m. now helps others find meaning through a combination of traditional healing practices and modern therapy, all accessible through an app. We still have our weekly meetups, but now they're both in person and in VR. Our Culture Clash dinners evolved into monthly innovation sessions where we brainstorm ways to blend our cultural heritage with our professional pursuits. Last month, we developed a concept for an AI system that helps people navigate cultural code switching in professional settings. We called it Switch.ai. Joy thought the name was too obvious, but then again, she thinks everything is too obvious. The dynamics between us have evolved too. We're not just friends anymore. We're each other's board of advisors, emotional support system, and reality check squad. When I'm about to make a questionable business decision, Kendra still calls me out. When Zara's feeling torn between tradition and innovation, she comes to my office for both technical advice and spiritual grounding. When Marcus needs feedback on whether his latest anime concept is culturally appropriate, we all hop on a virtual reality call to review it together. But it's not all business and growth. We still have our moments of pure, unfiltered friendship. Like when we all showed up at Joy's office at 3 a.m., her old texting time, to celebrate her app's successful launch. Or when we organized a surprise traditional ceremony for Zara's app launch, complete with both ancient blessings and system updates. We've learned to hold space for each other's contradictions, like when Kendra, the most outspoken among us, needed silence and support after a particularly challenging consulting gig, or when I was doubting my vision for digital griot solutions, and they reminded me that bridges are built by people who can see both sides. The best part? We're all still growing, still figuring it out, still calling each other out when needed. Our group chat is now a mix of memes, code snippets, traditional proverbs, and existential questions. We've got different lives, different paths, but our roots are intertwined. As Joy said during one of our sessions, yes, she occasionally says positive things now. We're not just friend goals anymore, we're growth goals. And that's the thing about true friendship. It evolves with you. It's not about staying the same. It's about growing together, supporting each other's dreams, and sometimes telling each other when those dreams need a reality check. We're not just a squad anymore. We're a movement. Each of us taking what makes us different and turning it into our superpower. Each of us building bridges in our own ways. And me? I'm still that girl who needs both sage and servers to feel balanced. Only now, I've got a crew that understands both frequencies. As Kendra loves to say, we're not just living our best lives, we're coding them in every language we know. Digital roots, global branches. They say success isn't real unless you bring others with you. But what happens when bringing others with you means building a whole new kind of bridge? It started with a simple question from one of the kids at my old community center. Ms. Mårüné, how do I be like you when the world keeps telling me to choose? That question led to the creation of Code Your Roots, a program that teaches young people to embrace their complexity through technology. We set up tech hubs in community centers, but not your typical computer labs. Picture this: spaces where kids learn Python while sitting on traditional African meditation cushions, where virtual reality headsets sit next to ancestral artifacts, where the walls are covered in both binary code and traditional symbols. The curriculum, it's as mixed as I am. Students learn coding through African storytelling principles. They create apps that help them stay connected to their culture. They use AI to preserve their grandparents' stories. Every class starts with both a traditional blessing and a system check. Remember Jerome, my cousin who used to sneak Sour Patch Kids in his dashiki? He's one of our success stories. Now he runs our youth mentorship program, teaching kids how to create games based on traditional African folktales. His latest project? A virtual reality experience that lets players navigate through different African philosophical concepts while solving coding challenges. But it's not just about the kids. We started digital elder workshops where we teach older generations how to use technology to preserve and share their wisdom. You haven't lived until you've seen a grandmother learn to create NFTs of her traditional recipes, or a grandfather use augmented reality to show the proper way to pour libation. The impact rippled out further than we expected. Other communities started reaching out, Latino groups wanting to preserve their ancestral practices through blockchain, Asian American organizations looking to bridge their traditional wisdom with modern tech, indigenous nations seeking ways to digitize their oral histories while maintaining their sacred nature. That's how Global Bridges Initiative was born. We now have hubs in 20 countries, each one adapting our model to their own cultural context. In Lagos, they're creating AI systems based on Yoruba divination. In Seoul, they're developing apps that blend Korean traditional medicine with modern wellness tracking. In Peru, they're using blockchain to preserve Incan agricultural wisdom. But success brings its own challenges, like the time a major tech company tried to streamline our curriculum by removing the cultural elements. "Can't you just teach straight coding?" they asked. "The traditional stuff slows things down." My response? Culture isn't a bug in our system. It's a feature. We lost that partnership, but gained something more valuable: authenticity. The most rewarding moments are the small ones, like when a shy girl named Aisha showed me her first coding project, a digital prayer mat that lights up with LED patterns during prayer times. Or when Marcus, our resident anime expert, helped a group of teens create a manga series based on African American history, complete with augmented reality elements that link to historical documents. Even the challenges become opportunities. When some parents worried we were pushing kids too far from tradition, we organized a digital homecoming event. Families watched as their children presented tech projects that honored and preserved their heritage. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when one kid showed how he'd created a virtual reality recreation of his great-grandmother's village in Ghana, using only her stories and some old photographs. The work isn't always easy. Some days, I feel like I'm trying to build a bridge while standing on it. But then I get messages from our students, pictures of them wearing traditional outfits while coding, stories of how they taught their grandparents to use VR. Proud announcements of tech internships where they didn't have to hide their cultural identity. One of our mantras is, "Your complexity is your superpower." We teach our students that they don't have to code switch. They can code blend instead. That their traditional knowledge isn't opposed to technology. It's another kind of programming language. Recently, during our annual Future Griots showcase, a student presented an AI system that generates traditional proverbs for modern problems. When asked why she created it, she said, "Because Ms. Mårüné taught us that wisdom doesn't expire. It just needs new software." That's when I realized this isn't just about building bridges anymore. It's about creating new landscapes where bridges aren't needed because the divisions never existed in the first place. As we say in our program, the future is ancestral and the code is cultural. And me, I'm still that girl named Mårüné, still mixing colors. Only now I'm teaching others to paint their own masterpieces, in their own shades, with their own code, on their own terms. Love in full color. Let's talk about love again. Not the messy, trying to figure it out kind from college, but the real, grown woman kind. The kind that comes after you've built your empire, found your purpose, and finally figured out that you don't need to explain your complexity to anyone who can't appreciate it. Enter Dr. Kwame Adinkra. I met him at a tech conference in Ghana, where I was keynoting about digital preservation of cultural heritage. He was presenting research on integrating traditional African mathematical systems into modern machine learning algorithms. Our eyes met across a room full of laptops and tribal art, and I swear both our ancestors chuckled. First thing he said to me, "Your name, it's not just a color, is it? It's a formula." Finally, someone who got it without a PowerPoint presentation. Kwame isn't just smart, he's wise. The kind of man who can debug your code and your chakras in the same session. Who understands why I need to sage my server room and run statistical analyses on my birth chart. Who doesn't try to simplify my complexity, but adds his own beautiful complications to the mix. Our first date? We wrote an algorithm together that combined our favorite African proverbs with quantum physics principles. Romantic? Maybe not for everyone. But for us, it was perfect. "You're the first woman I've met who understands both the binary and the spiritual," he told me over dinner. "Most people think they're contradictions." "Contradictions are just patterns we haven't recognized yet," I replied. He proposed 6 months later during a virtual reality experience he created that took us through the history of our ancestors, ending in a digital recreation of both our families' villages. When the simulation ended, he was on one knee in real life, holding a ring that combined traditional African design with modern technology. It had both embedded smart technology and symbols of our shared heritage. Daddy cried when he met Kwame. Not just because Kwame could quote both Fanon and Fibonacci, but because he finally saw someone who could match his baby girl's frequency. Mama ran background checks, of course, but also admitted that their astrological compatibility was statistically significant. Planning the wedding? That was an adventure in cultural tech fusion. We had both a traditional ceremony and a digital one, allowing family from around the world to participate in a virtual reality recreation of our ancestors' wedding rituals. Our registry included both traditional artifacts and cutting-edge tech. The wedding hashtag, Wortschimed, coded in the soul. But it's not all algorithms and ancestral alignment. We have our challenges, like when we disagree on whether to use AI or traditional divination for major decisions. We usually end up doing both. Or when his traditional family questions why we need to have computers in our meditation room. Or when my tech colleagues don't understand why we consult both data analysts and spiritual advisors for business strategies. But that's the beauty of it. We're not trying to solve our contradictions, we're celebrating them. Creating something new from the mix of our experiences, beliefs, and visions. We've even started a new project together, an AI system that helps couples navigate cultural differences in relationships. It combines traditional wisdom with modern relationship psychology, all powered by machine learning. We call it Love 2 String, a little coding humor for the tech nerds. The best part? We're building something bigger than ourselves. Our home is both a tech hub and a cultural center. We host coding workshops that start with traditional prayers. We've created a virtual reality space where people can experience different cultural wedding traditions. We're even working on a genetic algorithm that helps preserve and evolve traditional practices through technology. Recently, during one of our date nights, which involved both stargazing and data analysis, Kwame said something that stuck with me. We're not just a couple, we're a convergence, a proof that love doesn't have to fit into pre-existing parameters. And he's right. Our love story isn't traditional or modern, it's transcendent. It's red and blue making the perfect shade of maroon. It's binary code written in ancestral ink. It's quantum entanglement with a spiritual twist. As we like to say, our love compiles perfectly. And me? I'm still that girl named Mårüné, still mixing colors. Only now I found someone who brings his own palette to the canvas. Together we're painting a future that honors all our shades, in all our languages, across all our dimensions. And yes, we did write an algorithm to find the perfect date for starting a family. But that's another story. Infinite canvas. Sometimes I look at my life and laugh at how perfectly it all mixed together, like watching red and blue swirl into maroon in slow motion. Every contradiction, every challenge, every moment of feeling too much or not enough, they were all just colors waiting to blend. Now, at 35, I'm watching my own daughter, Amara, navigate her world. We named her after my college roommate, but her full name is Amara.xe. Yes, we really put the .x on her birth certificate. Mama said we were taking the tech thing too far, but Daddy said it was ancestrally innovative. She's 7 and already she's her own beautiful mix of everything. Picture this, a little girl wearing a traditional African print dress embedded with LED patterns that change color based on her mood. She says her morning prayers in 3 languages, English, Python, and Bambara. Her bedroom has both a traditional altar and an advanced AI assistant she programmed herself, with a little help from Mom and Dad, to tell her bedtime stories about our ancestors. Last week she asked me why her name doesn't have special characters like mine. Because you're writing your own code, I told her. Your special characters will be the ones you create. Digital griot solutions has evolved too. We're not just bridging worlds anymore, we're creating new ones. Our latest project, a global network of heritage hubs that use quantum computing to preserve and evolve cultural traditions. Imagine spaces where artificial intelligence helps compose traditional music, where virtual reality lets you walk through your ancestors' memories, where blockchain technology protects indigenous knowledge while allowing it to grow. Kwame leads our R&D department now, developing algorithms that blend traditional African mathematical systems with quantum computing. We joke that our marriage is like a successful merge of two complex code bases. It shouldn't work on paper, but it creates something beautiful in practice. The old crew, we're all still here, still growing. Kendra's diversity consulting firm merged with our company. She runs our corporate culture division, making sure we stay true to both our traditional values and our innovative spirit. Zara's Muslim Tech Initiative has gone global, creating solutions for religious communities navigating the digital age. Marcus's Afrofuturist anime series got picked up by a major streaming service. Enjoy's mental health platform is now a standard feature in corporate wellness programs worldwide. Mama and Daddy, they're living their best semi-retired life, running our company's Elder Wisdom Council. Mama still makes spreadsheets for everything, but now she includes columns for spiritual alignment alongside statistical probability. Daddy's TikTok following has grown to millions. He's become something of a digital griot himself, teaching ancient wisdom through viral dances and AR filters. Our Code Your Roots program has sprouted branches in every continent. We've got kids in Brazil coding candomblé rituals into virtual reality, teenagers in Japan creating AI systems based on Shinto principles, young innovators in Australia developing Dreamtime storytelling apps. Every day, I get messages from young people who say they finally feel seen, finally feel whole, finally understand that their complexity is their superpower. But it's not just about technology or tradition or even the bridge between them. It's about something bigger. The understanding that innovation doesn't mean abandoning who you are, and preservation doesn't mean standing still. It's about creating spaces where the future and the past dance together, where digital and spiritual hold hands, where code and culture kiss. Recently, during a board meeting, which we hold in both physical and virtual space, with both corporate reports and ancestral invocations, someone asked me what's next. What's the next bridge to build? The next world to create? I looked around the room, at my family, my friends, my team, at all these beautiful, complex people who've helped make my vision real. And I smiled. The future isn't about bridges anymore, I said. It's about building new lands where bridges aren't needed, where contradiction is collaboration, where complexity is currency, where innovation and tradition are just different dialects of the same language. And me? I'm still that girl named Mårüné, still mixing colors, still coding dreams, still dancing between worlds. But now I know the mixing, the coding, the dancing, that was never about finding a place to fit in. It was about creating spaces where others could be their full selves too. As we say in all our heritage hubs, the future is ancestral, the code is cultural, and the canvas is infinite. And we're all painting on it, in every color we can dream of, in every language we can speak, in every code we can write, in every tradition we can honor, in every future we can imagine. Because that's the thing about maroon. It's not just a mix of red and blue. It's a promise that different colors can come together to create something entirely new, something entirely you, something entirely us, something entirely possible.